So yes, tell me a little bit about your brand, about your how you've begun and what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very much an organic thing. We've been talking about Christy and I had been talking about starting a business for years since before we got married, and we joke that Christy came up with the idea of Uber before Uber. We're very certain of that.
Yeah, that's a
So,
gold mine that yeah passed us by.
Oh,
So yeah, so it's just been sort of one of those things where we've been talking a lot about starting a business broadly, but then specifically in fashion, having an interest in that area and different ideas for what type of business within the fashion world we could start. So yeah, it was just kind of an ongoing thing, and then as we continued to do research and have conversations, in particular on the research side. Looking at different ways of tanning leather, looking at different impacts that has on both the tanners that create it as well as the consumer when they actually even own a leather bag, and how certain chemicals can rub off and cause people skin problems. Just a variety of different things all sort of came together to inform us creating Avery Verse as we've done.
I think after we decided that we were interested in, doing handbags as a business, further research just kind of opened my eyes to how leather is produced and manufactured, and a lot of it, it's really quite bad for the environment and for people's health. So there are a few options for tanning leather that are better for the environment and better for people, and I felt that I had to go with that because I just couldn't justify doing it any other way once I really read into things.
yes, yes. So how long have you been going as a business?
Well, we launched our range. It was late July, August last year. Prior to that, there was obviously or upwards of almost maybe 10 to 12 months prior to that of research and preparing everything, and obviously laying the foundations to actually launch and have the bags and so forth, and the website. So going by launch, we're a year and we'll be 18 months sort of since our birth in December, which is exciting.
Very exciting. Yes, fantastic. So who's the actual designer?
So that's a partnership between Christie and a designer in Greece, Angelo Lukakis. So they work together on that side of things.
Okay.
Yes, I kind of had ideas for what I wanted, and he's the guy who drew the pictures. Just to put it in simple terms.
Yeah.
But it was a collaboration, and he's someone who has worked with leather before, and that's important because a lot of designs can look great on paper, but don't translate well once they're actually produced. So there's a lot to consider, and he was someone who had actually designed with leather before, and that was a criteria for a designer.
And why did you decide to do leather? Because a lot of, it is very good that you're doing leather and you're doing it in a sustainable way. So how is it sustainable? Can you explain a little bit more about the process and what makes it?
Yeah, well, I'll let Taylor answer that. But in terms of, I guess, leather itself, I think one of the benefits of vegetable tanned leather is that it's very long lasting. The tanning process, it's very high quality and it's very durable. So people don't need to constantly go out and replace a vegetable tanned leather bag, whereas other types of materials often need replacing. So in that way, there are people who are against leather, but I just feel that leather is always going to be part of the fashion industry, and we just need to make it more ethical and more environmentally friendly. So that was something that I sought to do.
Yeah. Just going to add to that, and funnily enough, as Christy mentioned, so it's called vegetable tan leather, and it occurs in a tannery in Italy, in the Florence region. But the practice of vegetable tanning leather goes back millennia. Some people put it as far back as 6,000 years. So it's kind of ironic that it was a sustainable and eco-friendly practice that had been around for thousands of years that was then displaced during the Industrial Revolution for more chemically based means of preparing leather from the cowhide. And really,
which is much faster than vegetable tanning, which is why it took over.
That's correct. But then now moving back to this more sustainable approach is really just, going back to what has already occurred throughout history. But yeah, I mean, in terms of some of the nitty gritty details, a lot of vegan leather isn't necessarily better for the environment per se. I think there's a lot of upcycling that I would agree is a great sort of sustainable approach, but certain PU leathers aren't necessarily better in the ethical sense because they come with their own sort of bag of pros and cons, if you will. But I think for us, what we wanted to focus, on was we are a luxury product, so we wanted to create something that exuded that luxury feel and the ability when you touch leather and you engage with it, and with vegetable tan leather because it has such a beautiful smell to it, when you even smell it and breathe it in and sort of experience it, it's a very fulfilling experience. It's not just a bag, it becomes something enjoyable and pleasurable on a higher level. So we wanted to have that experience be available to people when they buy an Avery Verse bag. And then from a sustainable point of view, the leather hide is bathed within basically a large vat of water and then organic material for up to 60 days. So rather than using chemicals like chromium, which can tan leather in a day very quickly, but has, it's non-recyclable, it's a known carcinogen. There's evidence showing that it's caused problems for tanners, as well as the end user getting dermatitis from various chemicals. There's a whole range of problems there which they have tried to address but haven't fully resolved. With vegetable tan leather, you get something that takes a long time to produce, therefore it's artisanal and requires great quality leather, full grain leather, which is sort of the top of the hide, which is therefore higher quality. I could go into that, but that's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, and I mean, it needs to be high quality leather to be vegetable tanned because it sits in a vat of water for so long. So the leather actually has to be a good quality to take to the tanning process, as opposed to using, lower grade level leather or cheaper materials which would dissolve if they were vegetable tanned. So so it's a quality product.
And as Christie touched upon, the idea was that it would be a bag you could continue to use for many years. So in another way, responding to that sustainable point, if you buy a bag and it breaks every year, well, perhaps it wasn't made from real leather, yes, but then you're filling up a landfill with your disposable sort of fashion choices. And we wanted to avoid that as well. So our approach was really to be pragmatic, but also very much mindful of the eco-friendly and sustainable side of things. And that's where we looked for the best approach, which was to use high quality Italian leather, tanned in a sustainable fashion. And then even from a design perspective, we created bags that mixed both a sort of a timeless elegance as opposed to a trend with a high craftsmanship and a functional sort of layout, so that they could be a bag you could wear 5 years from now and not feel like it was dated or something that should be left in the closet somewhere and forgotten about. Artisanal style, working with hands, using great quality materials. And so we wanted to find something like that, which is obviously in line with a luxury brand. We wanted to create high quality. And then all of the bags also go through, they're coloured with vegetable dyes. So once again, that same process of how do you get a red leather from a green leather, you have various options between chemicals and then organically produced dyes. So we also use that sustainable colouring process. And then from there, all handcrafted as well. So once again, trying to aim for artisanal products that are made to a high standard.